my very humble title here, all about ebooks. The idea is more in the subtitle, answering your question about the most important format for the independent publisher. Why is it the most important? I'll talk about that in a minute. Let's talk about what this is going to look like. So the next 20 minutes, maybe a little longer than that, I'm going to run you through a real basic overview of what an ebook is and why that matters and how do you create it. Just very basically. From the end of my presentation until 12:15, I'm going to take your questions. That was the basic idea behind this. I would like to ask for the morning, if we can keep it to more theoretical questions. Because I can get lost down a rabbit hole really quickly with some of this stuff. And so I'd like, I may, if somebody asks a great question that I feel like it's going to take me a while to answer the question, I may ask you to hold on until the afternoon. We're going to break for lunch around 12:15. At 1 o'clock, I'm going to actually run you through a basic ebook conversion process. Okay? Becky was kind enough to share a few manuscripts with me, and I can walk you through and show you how to do it and how not to do it, and how to fix it when it ain't done right. Okay? And then, for the last part, we're going to take more hands-on questions. I think I said your impossible questions. And I have no doubt that some of you are going to stump me, but I'm happy to try. Okay, so let's get us started. First of all, can I ask a question? How many of you have actually read an ebook? Oh, makes me happy. When I asked that question about 2 years ago here, I got about a third of the people holding up their hands. And it was like, you gotta be kidding me, right? Most of us, all of us, grew up with these things, right? This is a book. That is still true, but it is not as true as it used to be. The definition of a book has expanded. And so what I'm going to talk about first is what is an ebook. And what I'm going to talk about even before that is, why do I care? I've had a couple of people come up to me already and say, well, yeah, ebook, come on, bring out my paperback, my hardcover, whatever, done. Yeah, fine. There is a point, however, that many of you may not be clear on. Most independent publisher authors earn a huge percentage of their income not from paperbacks, and sure as heck not from hardcover. And not even from audiobooks, although that's a huge growing percentage, but from ebooks. Anybody know who Joanna Penn is? She's kind of the James Patterson of independent publishing right now. She's everywhere. She's a wonderful resource and a very interesting lady. I haven't read any of her books, but I've read a lot of her writing on writing, and she's wonderful. Her website is called thecreativepen.com. And she shared, not the actual numbers that she makes, because that would be, a little like walking down Main Street naked, but she shared the percentages. What do you think that green percentage is?
Ebooks.
That's her ebook percentage. That's not how many units she sold. I'd be willing to bet that if it was units, it would be that. Okay, because ebooks tend to be less expensive. Okay? This is the actual money deposited in her account. It's ebooks.
This is royalties.
Royalties. She self-publishes.
Yeah.
Okay? So this is money given, deposited in her account by Amazon and iTunes and, all of the various retailers. We'll talk about some of that too. And let me talk about that now. One of the 5 major retailers in the English market? Anybody know? Well, Amazon, obviously. Kobo, Kobo is mostly non-US, but it's very important in terms of English. It's a Canadian company and they're huge. iBooks, which is Apple. Barnes & Noble, not only in the United States. They do not sell in England, Australia, Canada, South Africa, India, anywhere else. Only in the United States. But, important. We've already had iTunes, Apple. What's the 5th one? Smashwords is not a retailer, they are an aggregator. Ingram is not a publisher, a retailer, they are an aggregator, distributor. iBooks is Apple. We've already had them. Walmart is a store. They do sell ebooks. You know whose ebooks they sell? Kobo. That's a good answer. Honestly, Google. Anybody have an Android phone? Yeah. If you go on the Android store, the Android Play, Google Play, whatever they call it, and you can order books, and those, to be honest, sell. Now, depending on who you ask, Amazon represents something between 60 and 85% of the total market. That's in terms of my money that I make in a given month, yeah. In terms of ebooks, it will be between 60 and 85% will be Amazon. Between 10 and 20% will be Apple. Between 10 and 15% will be Barnes & Noble. Some months, actually even more than 15%, they'll do well. Some months less than 10. And then Kobo is about 5–10%, and Google Play is a couple of percent, maybe 5% maybe.
These are ebooks?
These are ebooks. That's what we're talking about. So this is ebooks, okay? This is this part. Oh, that blue slot there, that's audiobooks. And in my experience, that's growing. Okay, but that's my experience. Okay, any questions about this? Any questions about the 5 major retailers? Ooh. Yes, Karen. How do you spell Kobo? Exactly the way it sounds, K-O-B-O. Yeah. And I'll probably be talking about distributors a little later, but there are a bunch of distributors that also are ways of getting to those 5 major retailers, but are also ways of getting to Overdrive and a lot of the library distribution, to a lot of smaller retailers like BAIPA retailers, Leo, and a lot of overseas retailers. I sold a book in Hungary yesterday. It was very exciting. You never know. People read English all around the world, right?
Is 10% audio or print?
The 10% for her is print, and this is basically accurate for me. I mean, this reflects basically what I see in a given month. Arlene?
Mine's completely the opposite.
That's interesting.
Totally the opposite, mostly print.
What did she say?
What she said is for her, it's mostly the opposite, it's mostly print books. And I can argue, one of the things when we started doing, when we started developing ebooks, I started developing ebooks with the Joseph Campbell Foundation, we were looking at where do you think ebooks are going to be the most impactful, okay? And one of the things that I assumed was that textbooks would be one of the places where ebooks would take over, okay? That hasn't happened. That hasn't happened for a couple of reasons. One, teachers like to see that they actually have the book. That's one. But two, they've done lots and lots of studies, and people actually retain what they read in a print book better than what they read in an ebook. I think that's kinesthetic, okay? Becky, you were an actor. You ever have anybody go up on, lose their lines on stage?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, do you ever see what their eyes are doing when that happens?
Yeah.
Their eyes go up and to the left. What are they doing?
Accessing me.
They're going through the pages in their mind. You can watch their eyes doing it. You can do that on this. It's a little harder to do on an ebook. So that's my theory as to why we have textbooks, and yours are basically textbooks, why those tend to be more print-oriented. The books that do best, like absolutely, no kidding, and I publish a bunch of these, genre books, okay? Science fiction, fantasy, mystery, romance, erotica. Why? Because nobody wants everybody else to see what they're reading on the trolley. We were talking about this. One of my best friends is an extraordinarily bright woman, and she reads a romance novel a day, okay, and has for 30 years. She said the day she bought her Kindle was the happiest day of her life. For two reasons. First of all, she didn't have to go shopping for mounds of books. But second of all, she could be sitting on the bus, and the guy across from her wasn't going to make some annoying smart-ass comment about Fabio on the damn cover. For all he knew, she was reading Finnegan's Wake. Okay? So, absolutely, the genres where the whole, we're all old enough, we remember pocketbooks, right? Mass paperback. The mass paperback is dead because it has been totally replaced by the ebook. So, but Joseph Campbell Foundation, we make about 50-50 ebook and print book. The income is about even though a bunch of our books are textbooks. This is a textbook that has been widely adopted. Okay? The fact of the matter is, people love ebooks. The other thing about ebooks that make them important for us is that we are on equal or better footing to the big 5 companies and the authors that they represent and publish in the ebook format. What am I talking about? Okay. This is AuthorEarnings.com. Anybody ever follow that? Do you guys know what AuthorEarnings.com is?
Author what?
AuthorEarnings.com. It is a website where they do statistical analysis of sales on Amazon using the rankings, okay? Which doesn't tell them how much money was made, necessarily. But it tells them which were more popular, okay? And if you look at these lines, see that purple line starts at the top? February 2014, when they first did their thing. Big 5 titles represented 40% of all sales. And now they're under 25. Have you been hearing in the news, ebooks are dead, nobody's buying ebooks. Ebook sales are down. No, they're not. Ebook sales for the big 5 are down. You know what they do about that? They say, oh no, ebook sales are down. We're going to change our $15.99 ebook to a $25.99 ebook. That'll make it up. And you know what? Ebook sales are highly elastic. Anybody take economics? You know what elasticity in sales is? You raise it $1, you're going to lose more than $1 in sales. This is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. The other part of it, oh, and by the way, that dark blue line, that's self-publishers. They call them indie authors, indie publishers. The red line is what they call small or medium publishers. I don't know, because I publish other people, I don't know if I'm in the red line or in the blue line, but either way, my ebook sales have gone up. Green line is Amazon's own sales. They have their own publishing companies. Okay? And this light blue line is what they call unaffiliated independents, and I don't know what the heck that means. But you'll notice they're basically going down. So I have a feeling, to a certain extent, the indie authors have swallowed that up. I think that's, anyway, doesn't matter. The other thing that you need to know If you are an author and you're saying, but I want my ebook to be sold by, St. Martin's Press, Scholastic. There are advantages. They have a huge marketing advantage, especially with bookstores. Okay? Where they put all of their marketing is to get bookstores to carry their books. Unless you are a big name author who gets a 6-figure advance. How many of you have gotten a 6-figure advance? I've never gotten a 6-figure advance. I've never gotten anything close to a 6-figure advance. They're not going to take out an ad in the New York Times for you. Okay? What they're going to do is take out an ad, maybe if you're lucky, or a listing in Publishers Weekly, and include you in their catalog, so that when the store buyers show up at the ABA convention, they'll flip through the catalog and they'll look at the table and they'll see your book. That's their big marketing push. How helpful is that for your ebook? Not. And how much royalty do you earn as an independent author, as one of those people in the dark blue line? What percentage of the sales price do you get in your pocket?
80%.
Not 80. Depends on the store. Generally, it's between 60 and 70. If you go through a distributor, they will take 10 to 20%. 10%, or actually, Pronoun takes a 0%. In some cases, a negative percentile. You get more going through Pronoun than you do distributing it yourself. Pronoun.com. It's Macmillan Publishing, one of the big 5. They have their own new distribution company. And they distribute to the big 5 retailers. If you only sell books in the United States, I don't even bother going and doing it yourself. Go through Pronoun. They're great. We can talk about that more in the afternoon. How much of a percentage, if you are James Patterson and one of the biggest selling authors in the country, what percentage of each ebook sale do you think he makes? 25. If you are a nobody, what percentage of each ebook sale do you think you make? 25. That's the standard rate. The publishers are very, very, very insistent. Everybody gets 25%. They're doing everybody a big favor by giving 25% instead of 70. And their marketing push is to sell to bookstores. How much are they helping? Not at all. Wonder why they're going down. Okay? So, the fact of the matter is, it is to your advantage as an independent author publisher. And I know all of you are not necessarily going to publish yourself. Some of you would like to go through a publisher. But consider this when you are going through and looking at that contract. You are giving up not only 45% of every sale. You're also, to be honest, making it less likely people are going to actually buy your book because they're going to price it higher. Okay? So that's why you care about ebooks. I'm going more slowly than I thought I would. I will try to move along a little faster here. What is an ebook? I'm going to do this pretty quickly here. Okay? This is from the Oxford Companion to the Book, who very nicely defined an electronic book, or ebook, is a book publication made available in digital form consisting of text, images, or both, readable on a flat panel display of computers or other electronic devices. That's not very helpful, but it's true. Let's talk about that in parts. I'm actually going to look at what that second part means. Okay? What does it mean when we say readable on flat panel display of computers or other electronic devices? Okay? What that means, really, from your point of view as an ebook creator, is that your ebook will be seen on not just 6 by 9 or 8 by 10 or 5.5 by 8.5 or whatever. It's going to be seen on this. It could be seen on this, it could be seen on the iPad, it could be seen on the Jumbotron at Levi Stadium if you know Jed York. Okay? Your ebook has to respond to the fact that the page is changing. Every book that's printed, I know where the page turn is, right? With an ebook, well, if it's on an iPhone, if it's on an iPhone of a person whose eyes get tired and they want the font size larger, or they have really good eyes and they want to squeeze as many words in as possible, or they're weird and they want it in Sapfino or Comic Sans, it'll change how the book lays out, okay? What that's called is reflowable. Most ebooks are reflowable. You want them to be reflowable. We don't care about pages in ebooks. I often with clients have clients say, well, on page 32, I noticed that there's a, and I say, wait, don't tell me page numbers, because page 32 on your, Windows laptop is different than on my iPhone, my iPad, my 27-inch monitor that I use to design. Tell me context, tell me what chapter, tell me what section, tell me words around it, the paragraph. How does the paragraph begin? It takes a minute to get your mind about it. You don't know, but that's good. Okay? The reader can read it the way the reader wants it. That's one of the things that ebooks can do that a print book can. Question?
What does that mean, reflowable? What does it mean when the author was writing the book?
Okay. Pardon me, I'm going to take us out of here. Okay. Whoops.
Nice picture.
Okay. That's an ebook. Okay? Make sense? That's an ebook, and I can share this exact ebook with you. It is a prequel story to the series that I have here. Now you watch what happens if I shrink this. Do you see what's happening at the bottom? Do you see what's happening over on the right? Same ebook. It's reflowing as I change the screen, as I change the window. Likewise, if I change the display size, okay? Right? Because remember that readers can, in fact, reflow. I can't see that, though, because I'm old. So that's why reflowable matters, and it's why it's generally a good thing. Okay? We also have, and let me go back to my presentation, another kind of ebook. Oops. There we go. Another kind of ebook, and that is fixed format. Okay? Fixed format means that it essentially looks just like a print book. That's different than a PDF. We're going to talk about PDFs in a second. Okay? It is not a PDF. But it looks a little like a PDF in that it's a representation of what the page would look like if you had the printed book. Okay? But most ebooks are reflowable. The ones that tend to be fixed format are ones where pages matter. So for instance, children's picture books. Okay? If you want to have the page turn at a certain place, and you want to have the text over the picture, you have to have it be fixed format. For my children's picture book, The Seven Gods of Luck, you see it over there on the table? I have two ebook versions. One is fixed format, and that's up on Kobo and iBooks and Kindle. And the other is reflowable because they don't accept fixed format on Nook and Google Play. And the reflowable one, basically, I have the picture up the top and then the text is down below and it's ugly and I can't stand it. But otherwise I couldn't sell it in the other places. Does that make sense? I don't sell many in the other places. I don't know why I bothered, but it's out there. I already created it. Okay? So that's what they meant by readable on a flat panel display of computers or other electronic devices. Let's talk about the actual beginning definition. What is an ebook? Let's talk about that idea of digital form. What do you mean by digital form? Well, file format. What file formats would we think of as fitting this? A book publication made available in digital form. Well, the obvious one is PDF. Okay? A PDF was a file format created by Adobe back in the early 90s. I think it was Adobe. It's Adobe now. And the whole idea is that it is a perfect representation of what the paper publication looks like, but in digital form. Okay? It's the original way for sharing text in a way where the format doesn't change no matter what computer or phone or whatever you're looking at it on, it's the same. It's the format in which digital publishing happens. We talked about digital publishing when you upload your files. We don't do plates anymore. Well, some people do, but very few. What we do is we upload a PDF. The PDF is loaded onto the printer. The printer knows, looking at the PDF, where everything needs to go and exactly how it's supposed to look. Except when it doesn't work, which is rare. But it happens. So a PDF, yeah, that's an ebook, except there's a problem. Nobody sells PDFs. First of all, they're not reflowable. And second of all, they're huge. Okay? They tend to be really large. So PDFs are not a retailable ebook. You'll find some publishers will sell PDFs of their books on their own site. But you won't find them, you can't buy a PDF from Amazon or Apple or Kobo. More to the point, you can't upload them. You can upload them to Amazon, but they say, please, 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 don't do that. Because they look ugly when you try to convert a PDF into an ebook. It looks awful. Precisely because a PDF is intended to look exactly the way the print did, and an ebook in most circumstances is supposed to be reflowable. It doesn't look good. Okay? Well, what about everybody's favorite Word doc? Okay? Or rich text format, or open office, or whatever, you know, whatever you have to write in. Well, that's great. You can upload those to most of the retailers. Do you want them selling your Word doc so that everybody can rewrite what you wrote?
No.
I don't. If they want to write it themselves, they can go off and write it themselves. They're not going to edit mine. Okay? So that's not really an ebook either. Okay, Kindle. Kindle is two different kinds of document. Okay? There is what they call the Mobi file, and there's what's called AZW. This is basically the same idea, only it's copy protected. But a Mobi file isn't even a file. It's two files in one. And we'll see what those two files are in a second, okay? So the problem with a Mobi file is you can't edit it. You can't really create an Mobi file and edit it. You can't do anything to it. You can create a Mobi file, but once it's there, and you're stuck with whatever happened. So then there's what's called the EPUB format. The EPUB format was created back around the early part of the 21st century, and it's based on the language of the World Wide Web, HTML. Okay? Every retailer, except for Amazon, sells EPUB files. Every retailer, including Amazon, accepts EPUB files. And the ebooks that they then sell, including the Kindle, will, even though they're not selling an EPUB file, it's a Mobi file, In fact, it will look like the EPUB file. Okay? So when I'm talking about an ebook, in terms of the format, I'm talking about that, EPUB. Okay? EPUB is overseen, it's an open source format. It's overseen by a group called the International Digital Publishers Forum, IDPF.org. And they just got swallowed by the same group that oversees the World Wide Web, but we don't care. The point is that it's a well-developed format, it's a very well-known format, it's an easy-to-edit format, and it's based on stuff that you can understand fairly easily. An EPUB file is nothing more or less than a website in a box. That's all it is. Okay? What do I mean by that? Most of an EPUB file is made up of HTML pages. And if you guys want, I can show you what this looks like. I'm just planning on sort of doing some hands-on. In the afternoon, I will absolutely show you. It includes what are called style sheets, which is the stuff that makes it look pretty. The language of the web includes the ability to have a single sheet that says, if you've got a chapter title, the paragraph following that should have a drop cap, and it shouldn't be indented, but everything else should be indented. You can do that. Okay? That's called a style sheet. There are some special helper files that we don't even want to get into because those are complicated. But they do things like telling, most of you have read ebooks. You know the navigation, when you hit and say, go to, and it drops down and gives you the chapter names? That's in the navigation file. Okay? And there's a file that tells where all the other files are, and that's also very important. The whole thing is wrapped up, it's just a zip archive. Do you guys know what a zip archive is? It's just a zip archive that then is given the last 4 digits instead of ZIP, they change it to EPUB. EPUB, if you ever want to, if you doubt me, and you should, and you want to test this, find an EPUB file, copy it. Don't use the original because then you may not be able to open it again, and that would be sad. Find an EPUB file, select it, change the last 4 letters from EPUB to zip, ZIP, and then open it, and what you'll get is a directory full of HTML and CSS and helper files. That's what you'll get. And images and fonts and whatever else you put in there. Okay? If you can handle a WordPress website, you can handle EPUB. Not everybody can handle a WordPress website, and recognize that. But it's not hard. And to be honest, even if you don't do it yourself, you need to know this so that you can talk to people who are working on them for you, right? How do you make an ebook? Well, one way to do it, if it's just a website in a box, is write a whole bunch of code yourself from scratch. I did that once, just to see if I could do it. I will never do that again, because all it takes is putting 1 semicolon in the wrong place, and the whole thing doesn't work. It's a pain. Another way to do it is to convert from another format and edit. Usually the format, for most of us, is Microsoft Word. That's the most common. My favorite format to convert from is not Word, it's InDesign or Quark, because those are generally more structured files. Either way, there's 2 ways to convert. Either you use a conversion utility or app, you use a utility that's built into the application that you're already using. Like, how many of you use Apple Pages? Few of you? Yeah. You can export an EPUB file directly from there. It's a pain in the ass to edit, but it'll be a good EPUB file. Perfectly usable EPUB file. If you aren't happy with it as it is, editing it is a pain. InDesign and Quark have good exports. Same, I always end up futzing with them because they never export the way I think they do. The other way to do it is use an online service, and those of you who have already sold ebooks that you created, this is how you did it, even if you didn't know you were doing it, because all the retailers have their own conversion service. Some of them even allow you to download the file that you converted, the Mobi file on Amazon, or the EPUB file if you're on a bunch of the others. Some of them, require you to upload an EPUB file, and that's less helpful. But there are also some paid online conversion services. And the third way to do it is hire somebody to do it, and that's always perfectly good. It is less and less necessary. You guys, everybody here remember what desktop publishing used to be? Ebook publishing is where desktop publishing was about 20, 25 years ago. I made a pretty good living in graduate school doing resumes and flyers and fancy programs for shows and things like that, because nobody had a good printer and a good computer that could lay these things out well and knew how to do it. I did. Okay? By the mid-90s, I couldn't earn $1 doing that because everybody had a little app that, you could make. Microsoft Word has templates. You can make a flyer. You can, make a resume. Do whatever. Nobody's going to pay somebody else to do that unless they've got more money than they know what to do with, which none of us do. So, within the next 10 years, the only time that you're going to end up hiring somebody to do this is when it's something that has high technical requirements, like video, audio, very complicated layout, things like that. It will become easier to do that second stage as we go along. Okay? But trust me, there will always be somebody that will be willing to help you if you look up and after today say, I never want to look at the inside of another ebook again. There will be somebody out there to help. Okay? Now, when I say using a utility app, a conversion utility or app, these are here are a bunch of the applications that have some sort of conversion. And all of these are more or less acceptable, okay? InDesign, Quark, those are professional page layout software. Some of us work with it all the time, okay? A lot of you probably don't, they're not cheap. And they're not easy to learn. Pages is sort of an entry-level page layout, Apple's entry-level page layout. It bridges between Microsoft Word and InDesign, at least that's the idea. And then you've got things like OpenOffice. OpenOffice is a free open source software for doing everything from spreadsheets to Word documents, things like that, writing, word processing documents. And there is a plugin for OpenOffice that allows you to export EPUB files. These four are writing applications that all have ebook export function, that are all more or less good. Most of the time, the ebooks that these all will export will look something vaguely like what you created originally. I'll talk in the afternoon a little bit about how to help yourself with that. There are ways to make that work better. Poetry is hard, just to let you know. But there are ways to make it work. One of the things that you have to do as you're doing an ebook, when you're going to upload it, all of the retailers test to make sure the ebook is acceptable. Most of them use the IDPF. Remember I said the International Digital Publishing Forum? They have a validator called EPUB Check. It's a little program that goes through and makes sure that your ebook follows all the rules. I have had ebooks from every single one of these failed validation. At that point, you need to edit it. And at that point, none of these are any use at all. So, edit. If you're going to edit, there are some very high-end expensive applications that allow you to edit ebooks. Do not bother. The two applications that are, to be honest, standard to people like me who do this all the time, they're both open source. One is called Sigil, or Sigil, depending on how you pronounce it. And it is just an ebook editor. Remember when I showed you the reflowable ebook? That was Sigil, okay? The other one is called Calibre, or Calibre. And Calibre started out as iTunes for ebooks. It's a library app where you can keep track of all of your ebook files. And then they realized that people also wanted to convert from one format to another. Say I bought a Nook ebook, but I wanted to read it on my Kindle. Well, they don't have the same format. Well, so they added the conversion utility. And then they said, well, the conversion doesn't always work. Sometimes we need to edit the ebook, so they added an editing utility. So I mostly use Sigil myself. There are people who love Calibre because it has all those different functions. I find them in the way. But it's a wonderful application. And you know what the best thing about both of these are? Free. Free, 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 free. They are both in current development. They're being worked on. So if you have a problem, you can actually go and ask the developers, hey, I did this last week. I found a bug in Sigil. I work with Sigil every day, and I suddenly it did something that I didn't expect it to do, and I went on the forum, and I said to the guy, hey, did you know it does this? He said, damn, wow, I didn't know it did that. Wow, it didn't even occur to me. Thank you for pointing that out. So in the next update, he's going to fix it, and then that won't happen. The great thing about both of these is they are WYSIWYG. Do you guys know? Anybody know what this means? When we were looking at white robes, right, the reflowable ebook, you saw it the way that the reader would see it. All an ebook reader app is, remember, what is an ebook? It's a website in a box. Well, an e-reader app is nothing more or less than a web browser that's specialized for reading ebooks. That's all they are. And so, in fact, you can work both on the underlying code, but you can also see it in real time, which is nice. Because that way you can see, okay, why is it that my drop caps should be red, they're not red? What am I doing? Oh, here's the problem. You fix it, and it goes red, and you know that you fixed it. Make sense? So what you see is what you get. However, it's still really nice to be able to work on the code, because honestly, ultimately, that's where the real stuff is happening. Okay? Question?
Yeah, can you recommend an ebook reader for a computer?
Ah,
Could you repeat the question, Dave?
Question.
ebook reader for a computer. I get asked this a lot. I can. Calibre. Calibre-ebook.com. Okay. Also, if you use the Chrome app, the Chrome web browser, there's a wonderful add-on for Chrome, Website in the Box. You can read inside your browser. You can read ebooks. And it's called Readium, R-E-A-D-I-U-M. There's a bunch of them. There's one for Firefox. I think that there was one for Safari, but they didn't keep developing it, so it doesn't work anymore. Question, Ruth?
No, it's add-on if you're a Mac person and you have a fairly new, like.
Well, you don't need an add-on if you're a Mac person. You just use iBooks.
Yeah.
It's actually a great ebook reader. However, honestly, when I'm developing an ebook, one of the things that I do, especially once I'm happy with it, one of the things that I do is I road test it. I didn't bring them today, I meant to, but I have an old Nook, I have 4 different Kindles, I have an iPad, an iPhone, 2 iPads, 2 different iPads and iPhone, I have my computer, I have a Windows computer as well, and I test the damn thing on all of these in different formats to see because they will look different in each reader, as much as there's a standard, EPUB is a standard. Right? Have you ever looked at the same website on two different browsers and it suddenly looks totally different? Yeah, it's the same thing.
So there's no ebook device simulator?
Yeah, sure. Sure. If you don't want to go out and do what I did, there is, for the Kindle, there are two ways to preview what it'll look like on the Kindle, okay? One is an app that they have called Kindle Previewer. And it does a pretty good job. It also does conversion. So you can drop your EPUB file or your Word doc into Kindle Previewer, and out will spew a MOBI file. Now, a MOBI file isn't really a MOBI file. A MOBI file was an ebook format created for the Palm Pilot in 2001. Okay, it's awful. It doesn't do pictures well. It doesn't do fonts. It doesn't handle like if you want to do drop caps or anything fancy. If you want to have inset images, right, where the text flows around the image, forget about it. Ain't gonna happen. So for old Kindles, they use what's called MOBI 7, which is the old MOBI format. It looks awful. It's terrible. But you have to know that it's there so that you don't do something that won't make any sense on an old Kindle, because there are still millions of the things out there. They are indestructible. Okay? They did too well building them. They didn't do a good job doing the software on them, but they are well built, and they're not going away. People love them. The second format inside the MOBI file is what they call KF8, Kindle Format 8. You know what KF8 is? It's EPUB. That's all it is. It's an EPUB file. So you've got these two different files that are shoved into this one format. If you ever download, this is the other way that you can preview, other than the Kindle Previewer. If you go into your KDP account and you upload a Word doc or an EPUB file, or God help you, a PDF, or an HTML file, there's a bunch of things you can upload. You can then go down and it'll say preview. Okay? Hit the previewer and it'll show you, and this is true on Kindle Previewer as well, what it will look like on a Kindle Fire, what it will look like on an Android phone, what it will look like on an iPad, a bunch of different devices. Okay? So that's a great way to get an idea. It isn't 100% accurate. So for example, I'll talk a little bit about fonts maybe in the afternoon. It'll show up with fancy fonts, but they aren't going to show up when they show up on the Kindle. Okay? Hold your questions, because I'm almost at the end of my presentation, okay? Some resources for you. And I'm not going to be able to answer all of your questions. I know that. Okay? Great places to go. One is KDP. KDP is Amazon's Kindle publishing organization. They have forums there, and they just go to kdp.amazon.com/community. And there is a very supportive, and helpful group of people. I'll be sharing this these slides with all of the URLs, okay? Feel free to take a picture, but also know that I will be sharing the slides. We'll share them on the website. You can go ask questions. Do search before you ask a question, because nobody likes having to answer the same question for the 82nd time this month, okay? So do a search, like, I don't know, inset images on MOBI 7. And basically it'll come up with can't happen. Okay? Or, why do my fonts look funny, on my Android phone? And it'll talk you through it. There's a forum called Mobile Reads. Mobile Reads started out as an EPUB, as an ebook sharing site, and nearly got taken down because they were sharing ebooks. And the authors and the publishers were like, hey, wait a minute. They've gotten extremely fastidious about not pissing people off. However, it is still a place where people get together and talk about ebooks. And in fact has become a major site where ebook creators have gone. So for instance, the Sigil and Caliber support forums are both on Mobile Read. So also there's a wiki that has a lot of information, very helpful information about this kind of stuff. So mobileread.com/forum. This is high-end, okay? This is a fairly esoteric, but wonderful. EPUBsecrets.com has answered some really, really tough questions for me many times. So I put that up there. Thebookdesigner.com, which I happen to be the ebook writer for, has a lot of articles about creating ebooks, but also print books and marketing your books and everything about self-publishing. So I highly recommend it. Still Point Digital Press, which is my site. I also republish most of my articles on my website. I have some that I haven't published on Joel's. Don't tell him. A couple of books that I highly recommend. One, it's a little old, but it's still the best introduction to creating your own ebooks I found. A woman named Liz Castro wrote a book called EPUB Straight to the Point, elizabethcastro.com/EPUB. You can buy it directly from her, you can buy it on any website, you can even buy it in paperback. And it will walk you through step by step, very understandably, of everything that you need to know about putting together an EPUB file. And inside the box, which is my book, I would like us to hand out, oh God, I'm so sorry. Wow. If we can hand around a basket, if we can find a basket to hand around, if you want to put your business card or write down your email address on a slip, I will send you a copy of my ebook about the inner workings of an EPUB file. Okay? And you can go to, this is a series, I'm going to have a whole series of these books, ebooksforindies.com, which I created this morning while we were all sitting. It just points to my publishing site right now. But I will send you this book if you put your name into the hat. Okay? Thank you. So that was my presentation. Thank you for being patient.
Two questions. One is, you see textbooks going into EPUB, and what would you imagine, say, 2 years from now, will be surprising about the EPUB format? Or do you think it's just going to continue the trajectory that it's in?
What I can tell you.
Can you repeat the
So
question?
he asked two questions. One question was, will textbooks move more into ebooks? And the answer to that, I spoke a little to this already, but the answer generally is probably not as much as we thought. Except in those formats where it's possible to do something on an ebook, like add video or animation or scripting, like, one of the things that's nifty about an ebook, I can have it pull in today's stock prices. Right? Instead of the textbook saying, well, in August of 2015, GM was pricing at. No, I want to know today what it's priced at. I can do that. The second question that you asked was, sorry.
Something that might be
Something surprising.
surprising about 2 years from now.
What the big movement in EPUB, in ebooks right now, is towards a format called EPUB 3, as opposed to EPUB 2. EPUB 3 allows for a lot more fine-grained formatting. It allows you to do things like have the same version of the ebook be displayed differently if somebody is dyslexic. Tell me about it. I didn't even think about that. It also allows for a lot of things that we can't easily currently do, adding media files, adding script. So that's where I see us going. Mostly, we will probably be going into just more of what we're doing. It is a maturing medium, but it's basically kind of, I think we're settling down a little bit. We were in the Wild West for the last 5 years. Once the iPad came out, everything blew up, but things have kind of settled down now. Next question.
I wanted to speak to the issue of textbooks. Have been a home instructor for almost 30 years.
Wonderful.
And I can't carry all the books around for all my students.
Sure.
It's impossible. And I know that if you go to the principal, you can get permission to have the textbooks digital. And of course, I'm committed to having kids have it that way because they're too heavy for the